Tov, everyone. It is Tuesday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the East Coast of the United States, here in the diaspora. This is the House of Seven Beggars. Therefore, it must be the Shul study hall. And tonight we continue with our study of the Talmud. And if I can at least remember which mouse I am working with on which computer, I'll be on good shape. Okay, so we are trying to adjust the microphone. Is what we are trying to do. Okay, we are on page 407 of the PDF, and if you do not have the PDF, if you look at the description just below the video, there is a link there. You can paste that into your browser and you can download the PDF for free and be able to keep up with us. So let's see who we got in the chat room. Daniel Garcia. I don't know if Brooke is with you or not. Miriam and Yochanan. Good to have you all here, and I'm sure there are others who are going to be trailing along here very shortly. Especially like Yair. And we want to especially mention Yair's brother is out of the hospital. They kicked him out of the hospital, and he is home recuperating now. We are very happy to hear that. So, okay. As I said, and I hate Jose too. That's quite a name. Okay. Well, we're glad you're here. Anyway, we're glad to have you all here. John, good to have you here with us. Shlomo, see, I knew these guys would all be popping in here sooner or later. Shlomo, is Shoshi with you, or are you up at camp? I don't think you're up at camp yet, are you? We'll find out. This is about a 12-second delay here. We gotta keep that in mind. Okay, so while we're waiting for everybody to answer, and I figure out which mouse I am using, and as I said, come on, there we go. Okay. We are on page 407 of the Talmud. This is Megillat Maaser Sheni, chapter 5, and we are on Mishna number 5. So I will get rid of my highlighting. That reminds me where I'm at. Okay, and because we are doing the Talmud, the blessing for the Talmud, because it is comprised mainly of the Torah, the blessing for the study of Talmud is the same as the blessing for the study of Torah. So, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Okay, Mishnah 5. I'm looking to see. Oh, we got 7. Cool. 7 people in the 7 people with us. Not everybody's in the chat room. I don't know. Oh, Brooke is with us. Very good. Very good. And Shlomo is home and back to camp tomorrow. Okay. So those of you, it's not camp like, going out camping or, a recreational camp or anything like that. He is working at camp way up in the northern region. Man, we think it's cold here. Nah, this ain't nothing. Okay. Max has joined us. Good to have you with us, Max. Max, how is your mother doing? Okay. And, well, we've got a lot of things going on. So, what the heck? A lot of members with people in the hospital and stuff. So, why not? Let's start out our study by with the Mishabarak. Yair, good to have you with us. Okay, so Mishabarak Avotenu V'Yamotenu, may the one who bless our ancestors, bless those in need of healing. Verona Black, Rachel Perline, Henry Griffin, Tammy Lavelle, Kelton, who is going to remain on the Mishabarak list, but Baruch Hashem, he is doing much better. We saw a video of him today where he was thanking everybody. We're very, very happy that he is actually been booted out of the hospital and told to go home and to recover, take his time recovering at home. Unfortunately, we're sorry to hear that Kelton's wife is down sick right now. So we'll make sure that if she is not on the Mishabarak list, that we get her on the Mishabarak list. Okay, MBN, David Lantz, Karen Flinker. Okay. Gavin Thomas Mudgett, Melville Robert Mudgett. Now, one of them was doing well, and we're glad to hear that. So, okay, Yair Black, Denny Sarah. Denny Sarah is my cousin. Oh, Max says, Mom is Baruch Hashem doing quite well. Good. Good. Denny Sarah is my cousin. And unfortunately, he is not doing well. And Denny is a very interesting man. Denny used to do quite a few of the different shows about Michigan. Michigan Outdoors. Anybody who's from Michigan has probably heard of Michigan Outdoors. Denny is the one who actually produced that show. He also did a number of shows. He mainly concentrated on Michigan. He loved Michigan. He loved hunting. He loved camping. He loved doing all of that stuff. And he was very fortunate that he was able to make a living doing that what he loved. Much like me. I love doing this. So I'm very fortunate too. Benjamin, Ariel, Ben Sarah, Orit Aliyah, Bat Hana Yehudit, Crystal Epley, Kim Meleski, Miriam Bat Sarah, Ruth Black, Beta Molesworth, Anna Guerra, Adrian Morgan, Tovaba Miriam, and Nassim Ben Shail Raz. May they continue moving down the path to a refuah, shlama, a fullness of body, mind, and spirit, together with all who are sick and in need of healing. Baruch atah Adonai rofecha cholim. Okay. I see Kita has joined us. And I guess it's probably time we get into the Talmud. Okay, we already did the blessing. We are on page 407. We are on Mishna number 5. But in the 7th year, Shemitah year, he must remit it for its full value. If he had if it had all been made ownerless, and now we're talking about the whole thing with the produce and terumah and the different offerings, what is set aside for the poor, the Shemitah year, and all that other stuff. Okay, so even in the 7th year, he must remit it for its full value if it had been made ownerless property. The person who seized it can only claim the cost of picking it. If a man redeemed his fruit for a plant in its 4th year, and we talked about the whole thing, we just had the counting of the trees, the New Year of the trees, where we count the trees. This is the 4th year. He must add a 5th to its value, whether the fruit was his own or was given to him as a gift. Mishna 7th. On the eve of the first festival day of the Pesach, which is coming up fairly soon, just like the first week of April this year. In the 4th year and in the 7th year, years of the sabbatical cycle, the removal was performed. Heave offering and the heave offerings of tithe were given to their owners. The first tithe was given to its owner, the tithe of the poor to its owner. The second tithe and first fruits were removed everywhere. Rabbi Shimon says first fruits were given to the priest, like heave offering. As for both, Beit Shammai say it must be removed, but Beit Hillel say, lo, it may be considered as already removed. Mishnah 7. If a man had produce at this time, and the time of removal arrived, Beit Shammai say he must exchange it for money. But Beit Hillel said it is all the same whether it becomes money or it remains fruit. Mishnah 8, Rabbi Judah said, formerly they used to send to householders in the provinces saying, hasten to set right your produce before the time of removal arrives. Until Rabbi Akiva came and taught that all produce which has not reached the season of tithing is exempt from the removal. Okay. I just want to back up here a little bit. Okay, I was looking for the removal. Such produce is absorbed and neutralized by the broth. Okay. I think that has to do with something else. Let's back up here a little bit. Elsewhere. The owners. And I think we would actually have to go back quite a ways. Okay. Mishnah 9. If a man had his product at a distance from him, he must call by name the recipients of the tithe thereof. Once it happened that Rabban Gamaliel and the elders were traveling home by ship, and Rabban Gamaliel said, 1/10, which I shall measure, is given to Joshua, and the place thereof is leased to him. The other 10th, which I shall measure, is given to Akiva ben Yosef, that he may hold it for the poor. In other words, he's making this public declaration. We've talked about this many times over these past few weeks about these public declarations. We've seen where it says if a man says this, then it's not acceptable. He must say it in this manner. Okay, so these public declarations are very important. So, and the place thereof leads to him. Rabbi Joshua said, the 10th, which I shall measure, is given to Eleazar ben Azariah, and the place thereof is leased to him. And they each received rent, one from another. Okay, Mishna 10. In the afternoon of the last festival day of the confession, excuse me, okay, the confession. This is a reference to the confession that was given in Deuteronomy 26. Okay. The festival day of the confession was made. How was the confession made? He said, I have removed the hallowed things from out of mine house. This means the second tithe and the fruit of plants in their 4th year. I have given them to the Levite. This means the tithe of the Levites. And also I have given them, this means the heave offering and the heave offering of tithe, unto the stranger, to the fatherless, and to the widow. This means the tithe of the poor, gleanings, the forgotten sheaf, and the corners of the field, although these do not debar one from making the confession out of mine house. This means the dough offering. Mishna 11. According to all my commandments, which thou hast commanded me, lo, if he took off the second tithe before the first tithe, he cannot make the confession, I have not transgressed any of thy commandments. In other words, he did it in the reverse order. I have not set apart dues from one kind for some other kind, nor from plucked produce for produce still joined to the soil, nor from new produce for old produce, nor from old produce for new. Neither have I forgotten. I have not forgotten to bless thee, nor to make mention of thy name over it. Mishna 12. I have not eaten thereof in my mourning. And this is all part of this same thing from Deuteronomy. I have not eaten, this is this public declaration that has to be made. This is one long public declaration that is made. I have not eaten thereof in my mourning. Lo, if he had eaten thereof in his mourning, he cannot make the confession, neither have I removed aught thereof when unclean. Lo, if he had set it apart in uncleanness, he cannot make the confession, nor given aught thereof for the dead. I have not taken thereof for a coffin or shrouds for the dead, nor have I given thereof to other mourners. I have hearkened to the voice of the Lord my God. I have brought it all to the chosen house. I have done according to all that thou hast commanded me. I have rejoiced and made others to rejoice. Continue on, Mishna 13. Look down from thy holy habitation from heaven. We have done what thou hast decreed concerning us. Do thou also what thou hast promised us. Look down from thy holy habitation from heaven, and bless thy people Israel with sons and daughters, and the land which thou hast given us, with dew and rain, and with offspring of cattle, as thou didst swear unto our fathers, a land that floweth with milk and honey, that thou may grant a good taste in the fruit. Okay, so again, all of this public declaration leading up to this final statement here. And I have to make this comment. There's been a lot of discussion going on about this whole thing about declaring Israel as a Jewish land. A lot of people standing against it. This is what the land was intended for. This right here. And we wonder, what is this book that is hundreds of years old, thousands of years old, what does this have to do with today? What it has to do with today is that if we were doing what it was telling us to do in the Talmud and in the Torah, we would not be having the issues that we're having now. It is only because we only have issues when we don't adhere to what Hashem tells us to do. And right here we have it. If we have done all these things, we've followed all the commandments, all the commands and the decrees and all of that. We've made these public declarations. And this is the blessing that will happen. And it's been rough. It's been a rough go for our people. Still is. And it is only through those who study the Torah, study the Talmud, who perform good deeds, these tzaddikim that are in the land, and those who pray for the land, outside the land, does Israel still exist to this day. So don't think that what we are doing is of little consequence. It is of very great consequence. What we do here when we get together on Tuesday nights and on Wednesday nights, when we study the Talmud and we study the Torah, we are guaranteeing the survival of Israel and the Jewish people. So, now that I've made my little statement there, let us move on. Mishnah 14. Hence it was deduced that Israelites and bastards, mamzerim, may make the confession, but not proselytes, nor freed bondsmen, since they have no share in the land. Okay? Because they're not part of the they're not part of the 12 tribes. They do not have a connection with the 12 tribes, even though they live in the land and they can do all the other things. They cannot make this confession because they do not have an inheritance in the land, at least for now. Now, if we read the prophets, we find out that in the time of Moshiach ben David, that this will change. That the proselyte will have an inheritance in the land. He's promised this by Hashem. Okay, so Rabbi Meir says, neither may priests and Levites, since they did not receive a share in the land. Now, how about that? Okay, so the proselyte nor the freed bondsman can make this confession, but neither can the priest and the Leviim. The Kohanim and the Leviim cannot do so either, because they also do not have a share in the land. Hashem is their share. So those proselytes that are listening, take heart, because you're on an equal footing with the Kohanim and the Leviim. So don't feel so bad. I don't have a share in the land. Well, neither do the priests or the Levites. Oh, well, okay. I guess if they don't have a share in the land, they can't make the confession. Hey, I guess I'm good with it too then, huh? Okay, we got a question in here. Okay, Kita says, proselytes have no land inheritance, but can marry into the tribe. So what do they do to grow food? Rent land? Yeah. Yes, they would. They would actually rent land. They couldn't actually, well, today they could actually purchase land. But back then, no, they could not purchase, they couldn't purchase the land. Well, yes, they could. They can purchase the land. They don't actually purchase the land. Okay, let's clarify that right now. They don't actually rent the land either. Actually, technically, they don't rent the land. What they do is they rent the produce that they are going to extract from the land. Okay? Because the land belongs to Hashem. Even though it is given to the tribes, it ultimately belongs to Hashem. Therefore, you could say rent, but they're actually renting or purchasing the ability to grow produce, and that's what they're actually getting. The next question was, does Talmud define bastard as child of non-Jewish father? A mamzer is the result of a forbidden union. That's what that's how the Torah and the Talmud defines it, from a forbidden union. Brother and sister, aunt and nephew, mother and son, daughter and father, any of those are considered mamzerim, and they are forbidden to marry back into the children for a number of generations, while they are allowed to marry other mamzerim. Okay, so this is confusing since we hear that being Jewish is carried by the mother, but the tribal affiliation is through the father. Now, the whole thing about, Reb Jason actually wrote a very, very good article dealing with this, that this wasn't always the case, that Jewish heritage came down through the mother and tribal affiliation through the father. This was a more of a recent, you really can't say it was recent. It had to do with Israel being attacked by enemies. And enemies doing what enemies do, which is rape, pillage, and plunder, right? Then it came to be that, the only way to tell who was Jewish was through the mother. Okay, because you didn't always know who the father was. You couldn't absolutely be sure who the father was. Now we can. I mean, we have DNA. We can actually prove it. But back then, there had to be some way to say that this child is born of a Jewish mother, therefore they are Jewish. But that was not always the case. Back before this became necessary, whether it came from the mother or father's side, it was the child was still considered Jewish. Even if it was just one parent was Jewish, then it was still considered Jewish. But as things go on, we have to we kind of have to bob and weave, and new laws come in to protect us. Okay. Okay. Since the genealogies always list the paternal line. Yeah. So you can see, the paternal line, as we go into the Torah, that obviously that was the case at one point. Fathers, children do get their tribe from the fathers. That has always been the case. Okay, so let's see. Where were we? I think we were on Mishna 15, I believe. Johanan, the high priest, set aside the confession of the tithes. He also abolished the walkers and the strikers until the day the hammer used to beat in Jerusalem. And in the days one had no need to inquire concerning the May. Okay, so skip down here. Let's see. The singing of Levites in the temple of the verse, "Awake, why sleepest thou, O Lord?" Because it sounded like blasphemy. Okay, so this has to do with he also abolished the walkers, and that's what it says down here. The walkers, the singing done by the Levites in the temple of the verse, "Awake, why sleep thou, O Lord?" Because it sounded like blasphemy. Okay, I can go along with that. Okay, and the strikers, 73. Those who used to strike the animal between its horns before slaughtering it for a sacrifice in order to stun it. This appeared like causing a blemish on the sacrifice. Okay, so the strikers, those, and there's been a lot of controversy about that. Talking about, them trying to outlaw kosher slaughter and stuff like that, and saying that this striking was more humane to stun the animal prior to slaughtering it in a kosher way, which actually doesn't hold up when we actually look into the practice, the shochet of the animal. That stunning it is actually crueler to it than when the animal's throat is slit. In many cases, when the animal's throat is slit, that it doesn't even realize that it has happened. I mean, the knife has to be inspected every single time it is used. It has to be inspected to make sure that, number one, it is still very sharp. It has to be as sharp as a razor. That, number two, there are no nicks in it, because if there's a nick in it, it could tear the flesh, which would cause pain to the animal. So every time an animal is slaughtered, these things have to be checked and inspected to make sure that there is no pain to the animal, no unnecessary pain to the animal. And again, like we say, we've seen where if the shochetting is done correctly, and let's face it, people do make mistakes. Sometimes it doesn't go the way it is planned, but neither does it in any other manner of slaughter. That if the animal is slaughtered correctly, the animal doesn't even know it's happened. It is so quick and there is no pain with it that basically the animal just bleeds out and just basically goes to sleep. It's actually far more humane than most of the slaughtering that we see nowadays in the slaughterhouses and stuff like that. Lining up cattle where they they come down the line and they shoot them in the head, or they strike them in the head with the hammer thing, that pneumatic tool that they use and stuff like that. Well, the other animals see that. Any other animals, all of a sudden the adrenaline comes up and the other animals smell that and they know what's going on. They become afraid. In this case, the animals are not slaughtered in front of other animals, because that's going to cause pain to the other animals, because they're going to become frightened. So, as I said, in the cases of kosher slaughter, it is far, far more humane than any other manner of slaughter that's actually out there. Okay. Let's see, we're going to move on now. We are on page 411. This is Mishna, Megillat, Halah, chapter 1. Mishnah 1. Okay. 5 species of cereal are subject to the law of Halah. Wheat, barley, spelt, oats, and rye. These are subject to Halah, and small quantities of dough made of the different species are reckoned together one with another as one quantity, and are also subject to the prohibition of the consumption of new produce prior to the Omer, and to the prohibition of reaping prior to Pesach. If they took root prior to the Omer releases them. If not, they are prohibited until the next Omer has come. Again, we talk about the counting of the Omer, which starts on the second night of Pesach. Mishnah 2. If one has eaten on the Passover an olive size of unleavened bread made of these cereals, he has fulfilled his obligation to eat matzot. Okay? If one has eaten on the Passover an olive size, and we talk about this a lot, an olive size, an egg size, and so on and so forth. Okay? How much is required to say, okay, well, I've done the Kiddush correctly, I've drank the wine. How much wine is required? 3 olives worth, okay? So we have all these little strange measures that we would think of them as strange today. Back then they wouldn't think of them as strange at all, because, everybody, we all know what an olive size is. Okay, so in this case, to fulfill the mitzvah, one has to eat a matzot made of one of the cereals or grains from the land to an olive size to fulfill the obligation. An olive size of leaven made of these cereals, he has incurred the penalty of karet. Okay. Cutting off. Excision. A punishment by the hand of God as distinct from one of that of man. For whosoever eateth that which is leaven, his soul shall be cut off from the congregation. Okay, and we hear this statement very often, and some people have misinterpreted this to think that, well, they are basically shunned, which we see in some of the Amish communities. A person is shunned; they're not supposed to be talked to or anything like that. But in this case, and in just about all the cases, this is a heavenly punishment, that they're cut off, which means that they will be their allotted time will be shortened. Okay, not that we're going to ignore, because that's it's just not right. I mean, we say it on every Yom Kippur, that it is permissible to pray with the sinner. Of course, it must always be permissible to pray with the sinner, because, I mean, basically we're all sinners, right? Okay, so the penalty of karet, if one of these cereals having become leavened, has become mixed with any other species, one transgresses the law of Passover. If one has vowed to abstain from consuming bread and tebuah, cereal, produce, he is prohibited from consuming these 5 species. This is from the opinion of Rabbi Meir. The sages say, if one has vowed to abstain from consuming dagan, or corn, he is prohibited from consuming these species only. They are subject to hallah and tithes. Mishna 3. The following are subject to hallah, but exempt from tithes. The ket. Shekhinah, peah, the produce, ownership of which has been waived, and the first tithe of which, terumah, the priest portion, has been taken off, the second tithe, and consecrated produce, which have been redeemed, and that which remained over from the omer, the grain which has not grown 1/3 ripe. Rabbi Eliezer said, grain which has not grown 1/3 ripe is exempt also from hallah. Okay. We are coming up about halfway. We'll do one more, and then we'll take a short break. Mishnah 4. The following are subject to tithes, but exempt from hallah: rice, millet, poppy seed, sisamum, pulse, and less than 4/5 of a cob of the 5 grains, the 5 kinds of grain: sponge biscuits, honey cakes, dumplings, cake cooked in a pan, and medumah are exempt from hallah. Okay, so we've reached our halfway point here. I'll mark this so I don't lose my place, just in case it happens to move on me while we are taking our break. Okay, we're going to take a 6-minute break, get a chance to stretch our legs, get something to drink, take care of a little business, maybe have a little nosh, and we will return in, see if I can get this right here. Okay, this one for here. Okay, yeah, we got that one lined up, and this one here, and we will be back in 6.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies, everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. The show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
Okay. I don't know what's up with the camera. Let's try this again. Okay, there we go. Technology, what can you say? Okay. And again, we have a couple of questions in here. Kent asks, is this section about the common grains in general, other grains that can leaven? Basically, I think what it's talking about here are those grains that are used for Pesach to make matzot. Have to be made from the grains, those grains that actually grow in Eretz Yisrael. She also goes on, is this where we get the Ashkenazi custom of avoiding grains that appear to leaven, like corn, oats, and beans? Yes, and including rice and stuff. That is a Ashkenazic custom. And, of course, that's not the same for the Sephardim, which we actually follow. Sephardic custom, the thing, kinyot, the small things. So, I mean, basically, if you took those things away from the Sephardim, they basically wouldn't have anything to eat at all. So okay, so that's yep. And I'm moving the wrong mouse again. One of these days I'm going to learn. Okay. So where do we leave off? Oh, Mishna 5. Okay, so we are Mishna 5, and dough which was originally intended for fancy baking and finally cooked as fancy baking. Okay, let's see what they're actually calling this. What is actually fancy baking? Now, I know what I would think it would be. Down here to... Okay, the word translated sponge biscuits in Mishna 4, but used here for all fancy baking, various kinds of which are enumerated there, back in Mishna 4. Okay. Well, that cleared it right up, didn't it? Fancy baking. Is exempt from halal. If it was ordinarily dough, but finally cooked as fancy baking. Or if it was originally intended for fancy baking, but finally cooked as ordinary dough, it is subject to halal. Similarly, are rusks subject to halal. Okay. Mishnah 6. The flour paste called me'asa, Beit Shammai declare exempt from, but Beit Hillel declare subject to halal. The flour paste called halita, Beit Shammai declare subject to, and Beit Hillel declare exempt from halah. As for the loaves of the Thanksgiving sacrifice and the wafers of the Nazarite, if one made them for oneself, they are exempt from halah. If one made them to sell in the market, they are subject to halah. Okay. There was a point I wanted to make about this. Now I got to remember what the point was. Okay. Tell you what, when you get old, things just kind of fly out of your head. Okay. Well, I'll probably remember. I can't remember what it is right now. It's gone. I'm sorry. I had something in my head, but it's gone. All gone. Okay. Mishna 7. We are on page 412. If a baker made dough for distributing, it is subject to halah. If a woman gave flour to a baker to make them dough, and if there is not in that which belongs to any one of them the minimum measure, it is exempt from halah. Mishna 8. Dough for dogs. Okay. Dough for dogs. As long as... Do you ever find it interesting that we go through the Torah and we read about, the hart and the gazelle and the lion and the leopard and the dog, and nowhere in the Torah does it say anything about the cat. Nothing about the cat in the Torah. Interesting, isn't it? Anyway, dough for the dogs, as long as it is such as shepherds partake thereof, is subject to halah. Oh, kind of like hush puppies, huh? And one may make an erub therewith. The effect of shituf therewith, and one should say the blessing for before and after eating it, and one should say the introductory formula to a corporal recital of grace after it, and it may be cooked on a festival, and a person discharges therewith one's obligation on the Passover. But if the dough be such as shepherds do not partake thereof, it is not subject to halah, nor may one make an erub therewith, nor effect a shituf therewith, nor should one say the blessing for before and after it, nor say the introductory formula to the corporal recital of grace after it, nor may it be cooked on a festival, nor does a person discharge therewith one's obligation on the Pesach. In either case, it is susceptible to ritual defilement affecting foodstuffs. Mishna 9. In the case of halah and terumah, one is liable on account of having eaten them to death or to repay 1/5, and they are forbidden as food to strangers. They are the proprietary, or they are the property of the priest. They are void if one part of either is mixed within 101 parts, and the rest being non-sacred dough or produce. They require washing of one's hands and waiting until the setting of the sun prior to eating them. They may not be taken off a clean lot for discharging the obligation in respect also of an unclean lot. And they are not taken off one lot in respect also of any other lot, except of such lots that are closed together, and from such as are in a finished state. If one said, all my threshing floor is terumah, for all my dough is halah, he has not said anything, unless he has some left over. Okay, we are at the bottom of page 416. We are on Megillat Halah, chapter 2, Mishna 1. Produce grown outside the land that came into the land is subject to halah if it went out from here to there. Rabbi Eliezer declared it to be subject thereto, but Rabbi Akiva declared it to be exempt therefrom. Mishnah 2. If earth from outside the land has come to the land in a boat, the produce grown therein is subject to tithes and to the law relating to the seventh year. Said Rabbi Judah, when does this apply? Okay, so at what point does this apply, that this earth which has come from outside the land is actually in the land? When is it actually considered to be in the land? And Rabbi Judah says, when the boat touches the ground. Dough which has been kneaded with fruit juice is subject to halah and may be eaten with unclean hands. Okay, so obviously this was brought up is because we know that in the land, if you're growing produce in the land, like in the during the Shemitah year, and it's kind of become a disgraceful practice of skirting the law by saying, okay, I'm going to take my land and I am going to sell it, or I am going to lease it to a non-Jew, and that way they'll be able to work the land and grow produce and so on and so forth in the Shemitah year. I think that this was also a case where this was an idea of kind of skirting the law also, which is to say, well, this is not the land, it's not Eretz Yisrael. This land, this earth came from another place. Therefore, it is not subject to the laws of the Shemitah. And Rabbi Judah puts a quick end to it. Says, no, the minute that it touches the ground, it's part of the land of Israel. Okay, Mishnah 3. A woman may sit and separate her halah while she is naked, since she can cover herself. But a man may not. If one is not able to make one's dough in cleanliness, he should make it in separate cobs, rather than make it in uncleanness. But Rabbi Akiva says, let him make it in uncleanness rather than make it in separate cobs, since the same designation as he gives to the clean, he likewise gives to the unclean. The one he declares halah to be to the name, and the other he declares halah to the name, but separate cobs have no portion devoted to the name. Okay, we are on page 417, Mishnah number 4. Mishnah 4. If one makes his dough in separate cobs, and they touch one another, they are exempt from halal, unless they stick together. Rabbi Eliezer says, also if one shovels loaves from an oven and puts them into a basket, the basket joins them together for the purpose of halal. Mishnah 5. If one separates his halal in the state of flour, it is not halal. And in the hand of the priest, it is as a thing robbed. The dough itself is still subject to halal. And the flour, if there be of it the statutory minimum quantity, it also is subject to halal. And it is prohibited to non-priests. The latter is the opinion of Rabbi Joshua. They told him of an occurrence when a scholar, non-priest, seized it. Said he to them, indeed, he did something damaging to himself, but benefiting to others. Mishnah 5. 5/4 of a cob of flour are subject to halal, if these include their leaven and their light bran and their coarse bran made up the 5/4. They are subject. If their coarse bran had been removed from them and returned to them, they are exempt. Mishnah 7. The statutory minimum measure of halal is 1/24 part of the dough. If one makes dough for oneself, or one makes it for his son's banquet, it is 1/24. If a baker makes it to sell in the market, and so also if a woman makes it to sell in the market, it is 1/48. If dough is rendered unclean, either unwittingly or by force, it is 1/48. If it was rendered unclean deliberately, it is 1/24, in order that one who sins shall not profit from his sin. Mishnah 8. Rabbi Eliezer said, halal may be taken from dough that is clean, in a quantity sufficient to discharge the obligation. In respect also of dough that is unclean, how may this be done? If one has a clean dough and an unclean dough, he takes sufficient halal out of a dough, halal whereof had not yet been taken, and puts dough less than the size of an egg in the middle, in order that he may take off the halal from what is close together. But the sages prohibit it. Oh, I just came back here. Okay, from the minimum quantity of dough liable to halal, 1/4 cob, which is about 3.5 pounds. 1/24 amounts to 2 to 2.5 ounces, just in case you were wondering. Megillat Halal, chapter 3. We're on page 420, very bottom. One may eat in a casual manner from dough before it is rolled. In the case of wheaten flour, or before it is mixed into a cohesive batter. In the case of barley flour, once one has rolled it. In the case of wheaten flour, or one has mixed it into a cohesive paste. In the case of barley flour, one who eats thereof is liable to death as soon as she puts the water. She should lift off her hallah, provided only that there are not 5/4 of a cob of flour there. If the dough became medumah before she had rolled it, it is exempt from hallah. If after she had rolled it, it is subject thereto. If there occurred to her some uncertain uncleanness before she rolled it, it may be completed in uncleanness. If she had rolled it, it should be completed in cleanness. Mishna 3. If she consecrated her dough before rolling it and redeemed it, she is bound to separate hallah. If she consecrated it after rolling it and redeemed it, she is likewise bound. But if she consecrated it before rolling it, and the gizbar rolled it, and after that she redeemed it, she is exempt, since at the time of her obligation it was exempt. Mishna 4. Similar thereto is the following. If one consecrated his produce before it reached the stage when it became liable for tithes and redeemed it, it is subject to tithes. If one consecrated it after it had reached the stage for tithes and redeemed it, it is likewise subject. But if one consecrated it before it was completed, and the gizbar completed it, and afterwards the owner redeemed it, it is exempt, since at the time of its obligation it was exempt. Mishna 5. If a non-Israelite gave flour to an Israelite to make for him dough, it is exempt from halal. If he, the non-Israelite, gave it to him as a gift before rolling it, he is liable. If after rolling it, he is exempt. If one makes dough together with a non-Israelite, then if there is not in the portion of the Israelite the minimum measure subject to halal, it is exempt from halal. Mishna 6. If one became a proselyte and had dough, then if it was made before he became a proselyte, he is exempt from halal. But if, after he became a proselyte, he is liable also, if there is any doubt, he is liable. But A non-priest who has unwittingly eaten of such halal is not liable in respect thereof to refund an additional 1/5. Rabbi Akiva said, it all depends on the time of the formation of the light crust in the oven. Okay, let's split hairs here. Okay. Mishna 7. If one makes dough from wheaten flour and from rice flour, and it has a taste of corn, it is subject to halal, and one fulfills therewith one's obligation on Passover. But if it has no taste of corn, it is not subject to halal, nor does one fulfill therewith one's obligation on Passover. Mishna 8. If one has taken leaven out of dough which was halal, which halal has not been taken, and put it into dough from which halal had been taken, then if he has a supply from another place, he reckons in with it the leaven, and takes out halal in accordance with the precise amount. But if he has not, he takes out one portion of halal for the whole dough. Mishnah 9. Similar thereto is the following. If olives of regular picking became mixed with olives left over after striking off by the needy, or grapes of regular vintage with grapes left over for gleaning by the needy, then if he has a supply from another place, he reckons in with it the regular fruit contained in the mixture, and takes out terumah and tithes in accordance with the precise amount. If he has not, he takes out terumah and terumah of the tithe from all the fruit, and as for the rest of the dues, he separates the tithe and the second tithe in accordance with the precise amount. Mishnah 10. If one takes leavening from a dough of wheaten flour and puts it into dough of rice flour, then if it has the taste of corn, it is subject to halal. But if it has not, it is exempt. If that is so, with regard to what then did they say? An admixture. Here we go with the admixture. We haven't talked about admixtures in a while. An admixture of tabel, however little of it there be, renders food prohibitive with regard to a mixture of a species with its own species. But with regard to a mixture of species not with its own species, the prohibition applies only when the tabel admixture imparts a taste. Remember, we talked about this before, this whole thing about it has to impart a taste. Okay. Yeah, on chapter 4 here, on page 425. And I think we might be able to get through this we got about 10 minutes. So I'll tell you what, let's stop here. We'll pick up here next week on page 425. And let's get over to the chat room. And since we are finished with the study, we'll say the blessing for the completion of the study. Baruch atah Adonai, Elohim melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam natan betochenu, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. Okay, let's see what we got going on here. Let's see. John says, we separate challah from cake dough as well as from bread doughs. However, if the majority of the liquid content is juice rather than water, we do not make the blessing. If none of the liquid is water, it is preferable to add a little water and separate challah. Okay. And let's see. John goes on to say, today, because the mitzvah of challah is rabbinic in nature, there is no minimum amount that must be taken. In Israel, there is a widely observed custom, exactly, to take kazayis, the size of an egg, a bitzah. And that is all from the Chabad website. Okay. Yeah, we'll take what Chabad has to say. They're usually pretty accurate on this stuff. But again, we've read today many times that there is always a dissenting opinion. Okay, and again, that is the great thing about the Talmud. That because of that, the question is never closed. It's never closed to debate. We continue to debate it even to this day, because we still continue to learn more and more. So, okay. Okay, well, I think we are going to conclude our study for today. We only have about 6-7 minutes left. So, okay, Kita. I'll get it right one of these days. Kita Johnson says, we just take it and wrap it in foil and burn it in a toaster oven. Oh, okay. Okay, I've heard that. I've also heard where people just keep it separate and they put it in the oven and they just burn it up, you know. Okay, I guess it would probably be more efficient if you did it in the toaster oven. But, yeah, okay. Okay, well, listen, I want to thank everybody for being here this evening. I hope you'll return to be with me and Zeta, or Zeta and I should say, tomorrow night with our study, Torah study with Parsha Terumah, which we seem to have been talking a lot about the last couple of weeks. It's Terumah this and Terumah that. Well, we're going to read Parsha Terumah this week. So I hope you will return to be with us tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here, and with Zeta and myself. And until then, everyone, Laila Tov.